Hello team, welcome back to another Line Warcast. This is your map today in a 1v1 between Animorph in blue and Dåseåbneren in red. This is the final game from the T2 2024 tournament in Line War. It's game 3 between these two in the grand final. Animorph is in the north in blue, Dåseåbneren is in the south in red. We're running this replay on 2x speed because I already know that it's going to take a decent amount of time for both players to actually find each other and then start the fighting. Usually, folks want to pick the center of the map in the game. Obviously, there is no center of the map in this one. And both players in a relatively decent starting position, all things considered. Dåseåbneren in the south going for a transport boat immediately out of the dock, and then a town, a barracks, an airport, and a second town. Barracks on the right-hand side for red is going to start being able to send a bunch of capping infantry to this wide open field, and this is where most of the economy is on this map. There's a lot on the left-hand side, but there's many mountains and forests, and units move more slowly through mountains and forests, so it takes longer for units to actually cap all this space. Blue is going for 5 barracks, which is a wonderful strat. Absolutely love it. It's a transport plane as the first aircraft off of the blue airport, and the drop is going to go directly towards Dåseåbneren's base. Something that I don't ever really cover in these replays is the picking phase, and in this one probably a decent idea that both players have a general understanding of where the other player is. Refinery comes into view because it's not in the mountain range, and the commandos might be able to snipe it. With the 3 infantry, depending on the micro here from Animorph, using this blue movement command to try to get the commandos away from the infantry and attacking the refinery. Pretty good job by blue, and very good defense by red. We'll see if Animorph decides to drop that location again because of how damaged that refinery is. It's a second transport plane for blue, and one of these barracks is only making commandos, it seems, to keep these commando drops going. If we go top down, this is what both players have capped. And Dåseåbneren is going to start moving some infantry across to kind of leapfrog all the units that are already trying to cap the right-hand side. It's helicopters from red exclusively out of the airport, and then of course the secondary sort of plane that blue is making is helicopters. Both players have 1 refinery. Animorph's making a barracks in the mountain range, and then Dåseåbneren has this barracks on the left hand side. In general, I think that Dåseåbneren's in a pretty good position, and clearly red wants to go for tanks. The reason I say that Dåseåbneren's in a pretty good position is because of this barracks. I think this is a pretty big deal. There's a lot of locations where red can dig in all of this mountain where entrenchments do super well. A second barracks means there's going to be even more units that are able to be built here, and then the helicopters move in the left-hand side. Blue's going to have to build a factory probably pretty close somewhere around here to build SAMs in order to deal with all these helicopters. That being said, Animorph's also moving helicopters down to the bottom left. And since it's now 2 transport planes, I'd expect that blue would stop building transport planes at this point, unless Animorph wants to go for a big mass commando drop at some point, which is a very valid strat. We see someone said that my nickname sucks, use that a lot. Or I think use that more than most players. And there's 4 commandos, so both transport planes would be able to make a play at any point here. Something that's going to complicate this for blue is all of these missile boats that red is making. Dåseåbneren's known for going for more of a dock heavy play, like if there's an opportunity for Dåseåbneren to do so on maps, and it's no different in this situation. Factory for red here, probably going to build SAMs. There might be a desire for red to actually build artillery pieces, seeing all of these infantry. But my guess is that it's actually going to be SAMs out of this factory. We'll see if I'm right. Nice sort of run-by attempt from Animorph. At least it gets the full scout with all of these infantry, and then on the right-hand side, both players with a decent amount of infantry here. The tanks for Dåseåbneren might be a big game changer in this. They'll do great against the infantry, and then red of course just has to keep the energy required to keep the tanks moving. Nice pick off of a helicopter by these 3 missile boats, and it is SAMs out of the factory for red. And Dåseåbneren adds another barracks as well. I think that blue will probably do the same thing, and this is going to be SAMs out of the factory, is my guess, given that there's actually 4 helicopters down here. Animorph can't see them right now. And if we go top down, both players with a relatively similar amount of territory. One of the tough things for the tanks on the far right is that they're going to have to move through these mountain ranges if they want to get into the fight, or they can probably cut through here. Either way, it'll take a while for the red tanks to get involved. It is SAMs for blue out of the factory. Nice pickup from Dåseåbneren on that barracks, which is a pretty big deal, seeing as red's going to have way more units now. More production for red. And Animorph rebuilds this barracks further back towards the main base. 4 commandos, if they target the refinery, they will probably be able to destroy the refinery. We'll see if Dåseåbneren has built a second energy producing structure, and red already has that. And unfortunate for blue, actually, that attack was stuffed. Very good defense from Dåseåbneren. You can see 3 barracks. I don't have to narrate it. Animorph's trying to get around the defensive line, but Dåseåbneren is on top of this and makes these attack move commands to defend the buildings. Very aggressive factory for blue, which I really like. And now red decides to send the helicopters over to the right because Animorph's starting to build all these SAMs, and there's no SAMs on the right-hand side, so this is turned into a very good play from red. Until these factories start building SAMs, these 4 helicopters are going to do a lot of damage. And just overall great defense from red. Probably won't lose this barracks, but I'm totally lying. The barracks is going to go down because this 1 infantry is continuing to just target the barracks entirely. And double wrong. 3 factories from Animorph. That's going to be a lot of heavy factory pieces for blue. And we'll see how that army develops. I hear a lot of barracks. There's a lot of barracks for Animorph in the top right. 3 barracks going down. And all of these factories are only building SAMs in an attempt to deal with these helicopters. Dåseåbneren decides to target command this 1 factory. I think it makes a lot of sense. For only 2 helicopters, well rather it's only 1 helicopter, both the helicopters got out here. Destroying one of the factories is probably worth it. Landing attempt from red on blue's refinery. I don't think that Animorph has a second refinery anywhere on the map quite yet. There's some good locations that blue could build a backup refinery. Nice play. There's also the potential for a port for blue. And then it's just a mess on the left-hand side. Both players really going at it. But it's notable, there's more production here for red than there is for blue. Starting to regret the fact that we're on 2x speed, because there's a lot going on, both on the left-hand side and then obviously on the full right-hand side. Dåseåbneren's moved up all these missile boats to this landing force to protect them, and the tanks are finally involved in the fight. And because there's no tanks for blue, the red tanks are able to just run over and destroy the factories. They might be able to start destroying some of these barracks as well. Although Animorph has time to group up and blue's making a really nice play. Tanks, they can still do a lot of damage. They'll get at least 1 of these barracks. My guess is that they'll actually get 2 of the barracks. I guess with no micro, maybe they will all get destroyed? They should surely get at least 1 barracks. Yeah, okay, well then there you go. Kind of right. So far on the left-hand side, still kind of a stalemate. Animorph's building this barracks on the far left, which Dåseåbneren does not see at the moment. And this is a very nice landing. There's only going to be 4 infantry here, but they're going to pop out pretty close to the buildings. The nice thing for red from making this play is that the SAMs are going to drop back. The helicopters have to come deal with it. And a lot going on. 6 barracks in total for Animorph. If we go top down, it's probably about a split map. And we can check the economies pretty quick. 1452 for red and 1441 for blue, so very close. This is game 3 again of the final, so the winner of this wins the tournament. Both players have done a phenomenal job to get this far. And now these 6 barracks are really kicking in for blue. Not exactly sure what blue's going to do. It could just be a continued push towards all this production. Animorph sees one of the barracks and the factory in the mountain range. This is blue's vision. Nice defensive line for Animorph to greet all these infantry that are landing on the beach. And there's one tank. There's one tank in the north for red that's actually going to be able to destroy that town. Airport on the left-hand side for Dåseåbneren. That makes 2 airports for red. Still building still building tanks out of that factory. And the tank actually decided to run by the town. And it's unsurprising. There's a lot going on. It's not like red has the bandwidth to multitask that tank. I think if it targeted the town, it would be able to destroy it. And something I feel we've seen in this tournament run from Animorph is a very good usage of these kind of impromptu quick defensive lines in order to trade more effectively against the infantry. These units on the left-hand side for blue are at risk of getting cut off entirely. Dåseåbneren is pretty much closing the gap where all these blue units could actually reinforce this barracks. And on the far left, factory's at a little bit of risk. There's a little bit of progress that red is making in this forest. But still 6 full barracks for Animorph. And a 2nd airport. Anyone's guess if Dåseåbneren decides to build a barracks in this mountain range, because that one tank has capped that territory. Income-wise, 1506 for blue and 1654 for red. This is a very important position for blue to hold. There's all these mountain ranges that are good defensive positions. It's a good dig-in from blue to protect the factories for now. And the reason why it's so important is that if this position's lost, this town's probably in a lot of trouble. And Dåseåbneren's actually mixed in an interceptor here to deal with these blue helicopters. Move command around the entrenchment. This is the real great play. Of course, entrenchments are great for you if the opponent runs directly into them, but it's not that great if the opponent just decides to just go around the entrenchment. Clearly. And there are your 2 fights on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. 1694 for red, 1476 for blue on the total ecos. I think this is about to turn in red's favor, is what it looks like. This tank run by could do a lot of damage. There's not all that many helicopters. I suppose it's 4, which is enough, but the tanks are going to be able to get by. They're going to get on top of this refinery and these 2 towns. It just depends on where red wants to stop and what building to target. But the 4 tanks have a decent amount of health, so they're going to be able to destroy one of the towns, and I suspect also the refinery. But you can just see how much production red has on the left versus how much production that blue has on the left. Animorph's adding another barracks to the mix. The town does go down. Good defense from Animorph to not lose that 2nd refinery, which is a big deal. In general, it looks like blue is doing a great job on the right-hand side and red is doing a great job on the left-hand side. And another sneaky landing with the 2 landing boats. Still no dock for blue. I don't think on this map you necessarily need to have a dock. But Dåseåbneren has total naval supremacy, so can afford and is allowed to do these drops. The transport boats are very safe. Sometimes I wish we could see units lost in replays very easily to understand who's trading more effectively. Move command from Animorph is pretty bold going towards these 3 barracks because the defender's advantage for red is going to kick in, but I think I like this play given the situation in the game. So far blue is holding on the left hand side, but if we go top down, red's starting to take more territory. And this is how poor vision tanks have. Town in the mountain range gets that stealth bonus because every building that is built in a mountain range gets a stealth bonus. And even if the tank was right on top of the town, I don't think one tank can actually see that building. Animorph is testing the defensive lines. This is an important moment in the game. Knocking this out for blue would be a huge win, because blue could also just get to this choke and start digging in. Because Dåseåbneren has naval control, there's a chance that some red boats could show up here and attack these blue units if they decided to try to go through the choke. But overall, great job from blue on the right hand side, great job from red on the left hand side. Same situation as earlier. And eco-wise, 1886 for red and 1371 for blue. You can see the Animorphs in the negative on economy right now, on that income per minute metric. But blue certainly has won this fight here. There's enough SAMs that any red helicopters that show up won't be able to do anything. 4 SAMs is enough. But you can already see that blue's deciding to back up here and kind of give up this town, give up these 2 factories, and get more defensive with it. Still going to be a lot to do for blue to actually win on the bottom right. And Dåseåbneren is the one to dig in this choke. Which it makes a lot of sense that red was obviously going to beat blue to get into that defensive line. And if we look at top down, red will likely have more territory. It's like relatively similar, but the economies don't lie, of course. 1386 for blue and 1800 for red. Transport boats landing behind the defensive lines, which is also going to distract these units from shooting forward. They'll have to start shooting behind. And units in an entrenchment lose their defensive buffs if something attacks them from behind. Sort of nice thing for blue now is that all of these units can focus on the right. This is a 2 deep infantry and artillery defensive line for red. There's no real way that blue's going to be able to push through this with this amount of units. The artillery pieces in the back are too strong. It's going to take a while for blue to push through this, is I guess what I'm going to say. And so red's decided to bunker down. A lot of helicopters showing up. There's actually no SAMs on the far right for blue, and blue is also dealing with a little bit of low energy. This push is certainly going to work. You can see as well as I that this is a lot of red units. And I think once this position breaks, that is going to be the game. There's no real natural position for blue to fall back once this army gets through. This is a lot of eco, these 3 farms that red would also be able to destroy. And there's nothing that blue can do besides try to attack here and just try to break through on the right hand side, knowing that the left hand side is not going well. Helicopters do a great job to soften up these artillery pieces, and Dåseåbneren moves the SAMs into position to defend against the next mission from these helicopters, I guess is what we'll say. And it's just so many units. There's no rocket for red. There's no overwhelming amount of air. It'd be very difficult to actually stop this. And this is, I mean, you can try to count it like 30,000 barracks or something for red on the bottom left. There's a city as well for Dåseåbneren. And now red's starting to land infantry here, and this is a great play because there's no real way that blue can afford to send infantry to defend against this while also holding on the left-hand side. And the main thrust of the push from blue is starting to dry up even off of all these barracks. GG, well played to both. Good tournament runs. Shout out to Animorph. Animorph's been very active in like the Steam community on the forums, very positive. I think I mentioned that to Animorph on a Twitch stream the other day. Shouts out to Animorph and of course to Dåseåbneren. Congratulations on winning the tournament. There's a third place game. I don't know if we're gonna cast it, but that's between Spoilers Incoming, Real Bug, and Nickname, I believe, for third place. I'll link Dåseåbneren's YouTube channel in the description below. Dåseåbneren does some casts for Line War and other Line War related content. And otherwise, thank you all for watching these casts. However you support the channel, it's much appreciated. Liking the videos, commenting, subscribing, of course, it all helps the channel grow. We're going to try to cast there's a beginners tournament that Barracuda has set up with folks who have played less than 30 hours, I believe, since January of this year, something like that. There's some requirement. It's for folks who are new to the game. Love to see it. Love to see that we're able to get a tournament of newbies together. So look out for those casts on the channel. I try to go for one video a week. Let me know what you think. Again, thank you very much and have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is. Enjoy. Congratulations, both these players. Congratulations, Dåseåbneren. Peace, folks.